The LT-50 DCC starter system is the best starter system on the market. One thing you may not know about is that you can create macros on the LT-50. A macro is basically a pre-programmed sequence of actions that the system can run automatically. The LT-50 can run up to 20 macros that can all run simultaneously. Macros can control locomotive speed, direction, functions, turnouts, and accessories. A macro lets you combine several of these actions into one automated routine. For example, you could use a macro to run a museum display back and forth, or you could also set multiple track switches simultaneously. Each macro is capable of holding 10 steps. However, we can extend the macros by using the link macro command. This allows one macro to automatically activate another macro. This allows macros to run back to back to create more than 10 steps in a sequence. Macros can be created via JMRI or the LT-50's built-in macro editor. To create a macro using the built-in editor, first go to Settings, then to Macros, then to Load Macro to Editor. Create a new macro by assigning a number 1 through 20 using the keypad or scroll wheel. Press the 2-dot button to create and save the new macro. Once created, you will be back in the Settings Macros menu. Now scroll back and select Macro Editor. At the top of the macro editor, you can give your newly created macro a name or edit the name of an existing macro. Use the scroll wheel to select letters and the keypad to select numbers to enter the name of your macro. The macro name that we can use for this macro is FL4. As you can see, you can scroll between capitalization and special characters to get the name that you want. Once you are finished naming your macro, you can hit the 3-dot button to save it. Next, scroll down in the macro editor until you see the option for steps. Steps will allow you to edit what actions the macro performs. In steps, we have two different options, the step command and the step number. The step command defines what action the macro is taking. The step number is the number associated with that command. For example, if we wanted to turn off function 1, the command would be turn off function, and the number would be 1 for function 1. One example use case of macros is for testing. For example, with our FL4 fleet lighter decoders, we actually use macros to test on and off all of the functions. Now we will go over how to set up this macro using the chart I made in the link below. So here in the commands, we'll enter select loco DCC short. The number we'll place for this is number 3, which is the default for most decoders. For step 2, the command we want to select is the loco function on along with number 1. I will now enter the rest of the step commands and the step numbers until we get all the way to step 10. If you want to follow along with this macro, please click the link in the description to find the chart. Once we get to step 10, for the command we want to enter link macro. For the step number for this command, we'll enter 2 for macro 2. Now let's create macro 2. For macro 2, we want to load macro to editor, enter number 2, go back 1, and go back into the macro editor. Once you are finished naming your macro, you can hit the 3-dot button to save it. For this second macro, we will name it repeat since it is the looping macro. Now that we have our macro 2 named, we can go to steps. For step 1, our step command will be loco function off with a number 4. Basically, any commands we did not get to finish in macro 1, we can finish in macro 2. For step 2, our command will be delay with a number of 2 for 0.2 seconds. For step 3, this is where we can link back to the first macro. We'll want to hit link macro with the number 1. Now that we have the macros created and properly linked, let's turn them on. In the LT-50 menu, press the turnout button. This is where we can activate macros. In order to select a macro, press the 0 button and then enter the macro number. Once 0 and your macro number are entered, you will use the 2 dot button to select and turn on the macro. You will now see your macro perform all commands that were selected in the macro editor. Macros will automatically stop once all commands are finished. However, if you loop the macros continuously, there are 2 ways to turn it off. The first way is to turn off power on your LT-50 system. The other way involves getting into the macro settings. The path to get here is Main Menu, Settings, Macros, Load Macro to Editor. We go back 1, go back into Macro Editor, and then choose Disabled and then Not Allowed to Run. Before activating the macro again, you will need to change the setting back to Allowed to Run. The LT-50 is the most advanced starter system on the market. With macros, you can expand the possibilities in many creative ways. This is the only starter system on the market with built-in and fully functional macros that work flawlessly. Get your LT-50 today and take advantage of macros to achieve fun, easy, and impressive operations for your layout.